And you think that there is a connection between Islam and
No,
the...
no, there very much is. That's what I was. Sorry, I like trailed off, but that is because I
No,
got
yeah, it's
angry.
good.
But no, that was what I was trying to tell you. These people were using like Islamic teachings to justify their arguments of blaming the woman. Like, oh, like if they were covered up well, if they were wearing the hijab, they wouldn't be raped. Or like
Wow.
famously, oh my God, this is gonna sound like insanity to you, but there was famously in Bangladesh, there's a clip of a famous religious leader, religious political leader, giving a sermon to like hundreds of men, hundreds of young men. He's giving a sermon on a mic and he's telling them, basically he's justifying rape. Basically, he's telling them, oh, why shouldn't men rape women? Women look so enticing when they're walking down the road. That was the
What?
argument he was
What?
making. Women look so enticing. Why shouldn't you rape women? And then he said, oh, women are like tamarinds, which is a fruit. Women are like tamarinds. They're like sweet and they're enticing. And this is the part that gets me. He made this noise with his mouth, and this is gonna be disgusting. So fair warning, he made this noise like, that's the fucking noise he made. And I'm laughing right now, but I'm traumatized. I'm laughing as a coping mechanism. It's so horrible. So that is something that religious leaders are openly sort of allowed to do in these countries. They are openly allowed to justify rape and call women, like we say in the West, oh, women are being objectified in the West when they're getting like catcalled or something. And that is true. That is very annoying. But their version of objectivism, sorry, their version of objectifying women and our version of objectifying women, in our version, women literally get compared to objects. Women get compared to fruits. That is what happens. Like the scale
Wow.
is so off. And then people have the audacity to come here and claim, oh no, there is so much sexism in the West. Look, there is so much sexism. Yes, there is still sexism in the West. But are we really going to sit here and pretend that sexism in the West and sexism in our side of the world are the same?
I have a friend who is a secular Muslim, a Palestinian Muslim.
Mhm.
And you know, he's very educated, and you know, he's got about children's books. And we had a discussion about, you know, after the 7th of October and what happened in Israel. And he kind of, like, he really shocked me when he said, when I told him, you know, there is a problem with who's funding Hamas, who's funding it's all the IRGC,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Iranian regime.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, but America is funding Israel. And then I was, wait, I'm trying to follow your logic. Are you just saying that you just compared America to fucking Iran right
Mm,
now? And
yeah.
this is a secular friend, somebody who I trust, somebody who is teaching people. I felt like I needed to vomit because I thought about all those Iranians living there under this regime, getting beaten up
Hung
daily.
by cranes, getting
Huh?
hung from cranes.
Yeah, women are getting killed because of their hijab is not fixed.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
rapper is just being sentenced to death for
yeah,
singing a song.
yeah, yeah.
And he's equating the idea of Western idealism with Muslim rule and Sharia law. I'm trying to see how, what kind of mental gymnastics you need to do to get to from this point A to this point B, because I it is so frustrating. The problem I think we're facing right now in Israel, and I'm sorry, it's not right now. It has been for the 75 years. People are saying, oh, you know, for 76 years, the occupation and stuff like that. People are forgetting that this started before 76. This started before of Palestinians. They weren't called Palestinians. They were called Arabs. They were part of the Ottoman Empire that fell down, and then the British came and partitioned Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Israel and Palestine, and you know, did a real big mishmash of countries, just like in India and Pakistan. like the British always love to do. They're like, okay, we're coming here. We're
Yeah.
going to. You are this name right now, and you
Yeah.
are this name right now. I don't know why. Just
Yeah.
wait. Eeny, meeny, miny, you. And
Yeah.
so the idea of saying that we came here and we stole the land and we there were Jews living here, and there were Jews that were coming from Ethiopia and from Yemen in the 19th century, like way before the idea of Zionism was occurring into them. And Jews came here. Some of them bought land. Some of them had wars with Muslim communities. There's no one story that says like
Yeah.
everything is good versus evil. There's no
No,
good
it's
versus evil.
no.
There's a
Yeah.
problem, but there is like an understanding that. Do you know the term dahimi?
Oh yeah, like the different like tax system for.
It's not just a tax system.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's a whole legal system, yeah,
Yeah,
for
it's a
like
whole
non-Muslims.
class. Exactly.
Yeah,
You are
yeah.
in a
Like
different class.
yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
are not allowed to build a house higher than a
Hmm.
Muslim. You are
Yeah,
not allowed to have specific jobs.
yeah.
You are not allowed to travel unless you are giving like an excuse or something like that. And as well, you need to pay extra tax because you're not from the right religion, of course.
Yeah.
So when Jews came here after the partition and the whole establishment of different countries, and they understood what the British wanted to do with the Balfour Declaration, they were like, "Oh, sorry, so there's going to be a land for Jews." Oh, no, 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 we don't like that. We don't accept that.
Hmm.
I don't remember his full title, but there was like a very important imam from Jerusalem that in the
Hmm.
30s and 40s had a connection with Hitler. Like I'm saying a connection, I'm saying very lovey-dovey. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he said to Hitler, "Don't worry, we won't let the Jews live there as well." So it's like they were making a deal, like you kill your Jews in Europe, I'll kill my Jews in the Middle East. And he was riling up all the Arab countries in the region when it was, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Egypt, and Muslim communities in Israel. They had the Hebron massacre of 1929. You had serious massacres of Jews because of Muslim communities being riled up, saying, you're going to have Jews controlling you. You had a Jew as the Dahimi. Now you're
Yeah.
going to be the Dahimi. And
Yeah.
that idea of being
Mm.
under a Jew, when you think that you are the higher power, you have the higher power spiritually, that
Mhm.
riled people up, especially
Yeah.
when it comes from people of power. So
Yeah.
that was the incentive that Arabs understood, that that's why they need to destroy Israel. And that's what
Mhm.
exactly what happened after 1948. And when they tried to destroy us, they didn't succeed. They said to the Arab Muslims in Israel, they said to them, go out because we're going to destroy Israel. So go
Mhm.
out. When people are talking about the Nakba, there's two definitions of Nakba. The original definition came from the idea of we tried to kill them, we didn't succeed, shame on us. That is that the idea of we weren't strong enough. And this is like a shameful thing in Islam, as that I understood that, Islam is supposed to be the most powerful. How can it be that we lost to Jews? And people have changed the definition of Nakba, saying this is the catastrophe of people being driven out of their house. Some people were driven out of their house, of course. Some were even killed, but a lot of them were called from Muslim communities to other different Muslim countries, saying, "Come here, we'll destroy Israel, and then you can come back to your house," which didn't happen.
Mhm.
So, and now they are feeling betrayed by those Arab countries and saying, we are now our own people. We want our house back. We want, and nothing changed their mind about it. They had filled their hearts with hate for 75, 76 years, saying, this is only our place. And this is a problem I have with the idea of there is no Palestinian Authority right now that believes in Israel as a country. Not the PLO, not Fatah, not surely not Hamas. So I want to believe in a two-state solution, but I can't realistically think about it right now when the PLO has signed a treaty, not a treaty, but it has a like a kill list. Like if you kill a Jew kid, then you get so and so money. If you kill a woman, yeah, and this is from the PLO who controls the West Bank, not Gaza.
They're supposed to be more progressive than
This is
Hamas.
the
Yeah.
progressive, yeah, this is the progressive
Yeah.
side. And then people are telling me, well, if you don't hate Palestinians, why do you kill Palestinians in Gaza, in the West Bank? Do you know what happens in the West Bank? I'm like seriously asking, because 3, 4 months ago, there were two Palestinians, Muslims, who were accused, not even proven, but they were accused for working with the Israeli government, and they were killed, they were stripped, they were in the street, 100 people in the street filming them hanged and butchered. And if that is what you want as a country, if that is what you believe, that should be next to us.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying it as just protecting us, because I am looking at it in a broader sense, a broader stance. If you believe that this is your culture, there's a big problem with what you believe, because saying that this is a culture, saying this is something that you need to respect, I cannot be behind that. I cannot. People are telling me, well, it doesn't matter if I'm bisexual or non-binary and they would kill me because I need to respect all lives matters. And I'm like, yeah, but saying that you believe that they would kill you and you still want them to live, there is a sense of hypocrisy here, saying that you need to respect everybody. But if they don't respect you, and you know what, even if it's not about you, there are people, gay people there being killed. And for you to say this is kind of their culture, this is the most homophobic rhetoric I have ever heard from a gay person.
Yeah.
This drives me mad.
Something related. So when I think it was like soon after October 7th. It was soon after October 7th. And like I can't preface this enough by saying I have always been against the deaths of innocent Palestinians. Always will be. But one of the posts that was circulating early on was, "Oh, America is funding Israel, and like all the other Western leaders are not calling Israel out." So I never want to, it was something along the lines of, I never want the West to call the Middle East violent, or I don't want the West to call us like sexist or homophobic or violent, anything. So that is just, I understand the goal of such posts is engagement, right? They just want more people to get, yeah, riled up. I agree with you. And they just want more likes and more shares and more engagement. And people share them and people like them with zero introspection. I'm like, so what is the underlying logic here? If you've done something bad and at some point in your life, you can never call out any other bad behavior elsewhere ever. That
Exactly.
is just nonsense. And this argument of like, and this was being shared by my Muslim friends, like, oh yeah, they villainize us, they villainize our side of the world, but look how bad they are. I'm like, no, but is this new? Do you think this is the first bad thing America's doing? Are you stupid? Like, is this is your like cultural awakening? This is your social justice awakening? Is this
No,
the first time you're finding out America has like controversial international policies? What?
and
And
again, this is, sorry, I'm cutting
no,
you off,
no,
but
go on. Yeah.
it's also exactly your point, is that there is a difference between policy, a government policy, and embedded hatred. There
Yeah.
is an embedded hatred. You can say that there is a policy against black people. There's racist policies. There are homophobic policies. But this is something that you can change in a democratic country.
Yeah.
When something is embedded in the religion or in the culture,
Mhm.
why can't you differentiate between the two? There is
Yeah.
a difference between Muslim countries saying that there are Muslim laws, and we have Jewish laws in, well, it's not real Jewish laws, but there are laws that are founded on Judaism, like the idea that you cannot work for 7 days a week.
Right. Yeah.
You can only work for 6 days a week. And this is coming
Mhm.
from the Torah. This comes
Yeah.
from the idea that Shabbos is, Saturday is a day of relaxation. But
Yeah.
they did change it as that you can say, well, if you want to work on Shabbos, that's fine. You can work on Saturday, but there is supposed to be at least one day a week that you are not
Mhm.
working. So the
Yeah.
idea is that taking the religion part and, I would say, improve it with regulations, with the idea of how to improve it, how to take it and put it in a democratic system.
Yeah.
And even the idea of when you said the madrasa and religious teaching, we have
Mhm.
religious schools,
Yeah.
but most schools, we have Bible class in
Mhm.
Israel, but it's a
Mhm.
secular class.
Hmm.
You are learning about the history, about the mythology, about
Mhm.
the stories, and it's not taught in any shape or form as a religious ideology. And this is something important to understand, because I think that it is possible to learn about mythology in
Mhm.
schools, in high school. We
Mhm.
were taught from a very young age, but we were never taught that this is the reality. This is like,
Mhm.
Adam and Eve ate an
Yeah.
apple. Oh my God. And this is even some classes, they have like explaining the roots of those stories. Like there
Mhm.
are, every religion was built from a different religion that came before.
Yes. Yeah.
But people don't know that all the time.
No,
And
I
they think
know.
that just came up from,
It just
from
appeared. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And I really like that we were taught about the roots that built Judaism, and that Judaism was built upon it from
Yeah.
school, from high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is like something that I can say that, you know, you can be religious, you can learn about religious things, religious
Yeah.
books, but you
Yeah.
can even differentiate between those two.
Hmm. You brought up a very good point, actually, and I think that's a we people tend to lump Abrahamic religions together, and they have a lot of connections. They're all like very interconnected. But I think this is something people don't talk about enough, is something that separates Islam from Christianity and Judaism very strongly is, and at least my understanding of Judaism and Christianity is, Jews and Christians understand, oh, it's a collection of stories told by multiple people that has like that was collected by multiple people and like changed by different kings and different rulers. So this is like, take it with a grain of salt. I think generally speaking, I think Jewish people and Christians, they understand it. That's not the case with Islam. Islam it's not a collection of things written by people. Islam is understood as the direct word of God whispered to Muhammad by an angel in a cave, and he wrote it down. It's the direct word of God. So that's why when people, there are like very modern, very liberal reform Jews. There are very liberal, like culturally Christians. That is very hard to do with Islam. Even the most liberal Muslim has to accept the Quran as the direct word of God. because that's just what the book is. That's just what it's supposed to be. So it's very hard to make any adjustments to it. So when people say things like, oh, like you can like it's unfair to demonize Islam, like you just have to like adapt it through to modern times. Like you can't adapt it to modern times. It's forbidden. It's the word of God. You cannot alter the word of God. So there is that understanding of like what you're saying, like it should be that it can be taught as like, oh, it's a collection of stories, or it's a like teaching it as like religious history as opposed to an absolute truth. That's very hard to do with Islam because it's supposed to be the absolute truth. So that's why it's so hard for people, like the way Christianity and Judaism have evolved a lot since their inception.
Yeah,
Virtually no one is like you as a secular agnostic ethnically Jewish person in Israel today. Your life versus your earliest Jewish ancestors' life looks very different. Very, very different.
I bet. I don't want to
Yeah,
say for sure, but I bet.
you bet. But like conservative Muslims today, kind of pretty much their life looks pretty much the way it did for in the early days, because it has to. And there is none of that acknowledgement of Islam evolved from something. It did evolve from something. It did evolve from even like the things like the garments that Muslims wear, including the hijab. There's a controversial history to the hijab, which I'm sure you know. I'm not going to get into it, which is like it was a very victim blaming. Oh, you don't know?
No, no, I
Oh,
didn't. I know
it
about
was
the kafia, that it's actually from a Jewish kind, not Jewish culture, but kind of like a Jewish tribe. The
yeah.
idea of it's a Jewish kind of Canaanite tribe, but about the hijab, I don't know about.
Okay. So this is coming from Hadith. So this is not from the Quran. This is from a Hadith, which is like the life story of Muhammad,
Hmm.
which is not as, I don't know, as high in the list of like priorities for Muslims as the Quran. Quran is the ultimate word of God, but the Hadith is also, you take a lot of lessons from the Hadith. And this is coming from, yeah, the story is basically, I read this a long time ago, so I might be mixing things up, but the story is basically one of Muhammad's many, many wives was outside going to the bathroom, because in those days they had to go outside to go to the
Sure.
bathroom. Yeah. And Umar, who is one of Muhammad's earliest followers, and I believe he was related to him too. Anyway, but he saw that woman, Muhammad's wife, taking a shit or whatever, and and he came back to Muhammad saying, "Oh, I saw your wife." Like he was basically being like a pervert. He was being like cheeky. He was being weird. And
Hmm.
so, what would you do if someone came up to you and said, "Oh, I saw your wife taking a shit"? You would be so creeped out by it, like fuck off. What's wrong with you? Why are you watching my wife taking a shit? Like, please, like, go away.
I
Muhammad's
would chop his
response
head
to that
off.
was, Muhammad's response to that was, "Oh, she should cover up." And now I'm gonna write a rule and say all Muslim women should cover up. How is that a normal response? That is such a weird response. You should tell that guy, bro, stop watching women taking a shit.
You know, it's funny that they could have changed, even if it's the real story. They could have
Yeah,
changed it and not say that she's going to take a shit. Not
that is
going to
me. I
say
don't think the actual
no,
hadith
no,
says she
no,
was taking a
no.
shit.
But even if she's going to the toilet, I'm like, just
Yeah,
why keep it? I'm just like, I'm just trying to. You could have did it like in a totally different way, totally different like logic and explaining it and no, we'll just say that I was aroused from her sitting on the crapper and doing what she wanted to do, and that's fine. She is the
yeah.
one at fault because
She's the
she
one
is,
who needs
yeah,
to cover up.
of course.
That
What?
is not the solution. The solution is to tell that guy, "Oh my God, you're so creepy."
Or maybe you just build a door. I don't know.
Get to
Maybe
the door.
just maybe that's the
Yeah,
problem. Sorry, put a sign. Sorry, I'm taking a shit right now.
yeah,
Be back in 5 minutes.
yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so that is kind of how, according to Hadith, that is how the hijab came to be. And even if you discard that, like that kind of head covering makes some sense for a like for the desert in that period of time. It's like sand, it's hot, you want to protect your eyes. Like some kind of covering for the head makes sense for that environment at that time with that infrastructure. In modern life, it became like a symbol of Islam, but for my money, it made sense as a garment for that weather, for that climate, for that desert. In modern life, we don't necessarily need that for protection against the sand. We don't need that anymore in most
It's
societies. But like when you treat it as, oh, this is the absolute truth, this is the command of God, we're just supposed to wear this, it becomes something so controversial, so rigid, so like absolute, when it didn't have to be. It could have just been like, I like to imagine like an alternate history of Islam where people took everything with a grain of salt. Where, like, okay, it's just something people wore in the sand to protect their eyes. We don't have to wear it necessarily. If we want to wear it, we wear it. Otherwise, we don't. And if we lived in that alternate history, places like Iran wouldn't have like women being killed by the morality police if people took Islam with a grain of salt. But it's impossible to take Islam with a grain of salt because it's the absolute truth. It's the word of God.
like I said before, I think that the problem is that when you have a prophet, a
Mhm.
human prophet, which he's done horrible things like
Yeah.
marry small children, girls, I mean, killing people, making up weird laws like this one. And when he is the voice of God, the voice of reason,
Mm.
and he
Yeah.
does that stuff, that gives you legitimacy to do the same. That gives you
Yeah.
that's saying, okay, if the word of God, the voice of God is saying that, I
Yeah.
guess I can do the same. And this is, I think, the difference between Judaism and Islam, because the people who have done horrible stuff in the Bible, they've
Mhm.
been reprehended. They have been punished. You have King David, which is
Mhm.
everybody's talking about King David. Wow, he was the best. He killed Goliath. Oh my God, he's a hero. Then he did a dick move. He wanted Bathsheba. He wanted the woman. He coveted a woman of another man.
Mhm.
He sent this guy, this her husband, to war to be in the front of the line to be killed just so he can be with this woman, and he got punished because God
Mhm.
said, you did a dick move, you should
Yeah.
not do that. And this
Yeah.
is the problem you have, like you said, about the idea of having multiple interpretations and multiple, because you had multiple people that
Mhm.
wrote the multiple chapters of the Bible, and you
Yeah.
even have disagreements inside the Bible of people seeing
Exactly.
David as a political tyrant or a hero. So
Mhm.
this is why in Judaism, from the very beginning of Judaism, the idea of argument. This is why
Mhm.
we Jews love to argue, because it's embedded with us for the past 4,000 years. We love it. It's part of us, and I think that is the problem when you have a place to argue, to
Mhm.
question, to to disagree, to say, I don't believe that. I think what he meant was this.
Yeah.
Unlike people that say no, there is
Mhm.
only one saying this, only one way of interpreting it. Even if you
Yeah.
are seeing, there's Sunni and Shi'i and whatever, they still agree that there is only one religion, and
Yeah.
and there's, and it's by the sword. Like some of them say
Mhm.
it's by the
Yeah.
sword,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So this is a problem when you cannot be expressed freely and criticize from the
Yeah.
inside. I'm not even saying
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
outside.
No, no, you're right. There is, like I said, there is no room for that introspection, for that analysis, because it's the word of God. You can't touch the word of God. That makes it so rigid. It's a problem. It's been really a lot of fun talking to you guys, and I don't
Thank
get
you.
to do this. I don't get to everything I've said today. Those are not even like we're just having an honest, open discussion about like the problematic parts of Islam, the problematic aspects of Islam. We're actually not even villainizing Islam entirely. We're having just a very constructive discussion about take everything with a grain of salt. Having this rigid idea of Muhammad was such a good person, we need to be like him. It can be very problematic territory. What in my mind, what we're saying is not even that controversial, because we're not saying anything hateful, we're not saying anything like genocidal, but you can't say that. You can't say that like in like Muslim countries because you'll get killed or you'll get thrown in jail. And now you can't say that in the liberal West because you'll get called Islamophobic.
Yeah, and
It's
racist.
madness.
This is why we're doing it, because I think
Yeah.
that in the end, you need to have nuance. You need to have
Mm.
the idea of having multiple truths at once, or
Yeah,
even,
yeah.
you know, it's not like after the October 7, I said, all right, fuck all of them, fuck them all. I want to kill all of them. They deserve to die. No, because there is a place to have an open discussion and talking about stuff. And when I understood that there is nothing like this in Islam, there is no place to real discuss. This is why we opened this channel, to
Yeah.
have this place, this to have even disagreements. I can
Mm.
disagree with you. We
Yeah.
can talk about stuff. The idea of having your personal experience being talked, being respected, not
Yeah.
being belittled. I think this is one of the things that I'm feeling so grossed out. I felt betrayed in a
Hmm.
sense from the global left community, which I was feeling a part of. If it's BLM,
Hmm.
if it's
Yeah.
feminism, if it's Me
Yeah.
Too,
Yeah.
I was a big advocate for that. I was always
Yeah.
talking about it. Seeing how I felt the 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 humiliation, and then I saw Iranians feeling the same thing.
Yeah.
People who are saying you are not listening to me and
Hmm.
are being accused of horrible, horrible stuff. And I'm like, we are not the problem. I am not the I'm not. It's. People are saying you're not a real leftist if you don't agree with.
It's oh my God, don't even get me started. But yeah, that is the thing that's happening. You're right.
I am. We are the real left. I'm sorry to say that we
Yeah,
are the
yeah,
real left
yeah,
because we are open to talk and we can
yeah.
criticize stuff that we don't understand. That we are trying to understand or we're trying
Mm,
to see. And if you are not open, if you're saying that being a leftist is not being called a racist, and saying you
mhm.
cannot criticize this or that, and I'm sorry, this is, I think that you have a very problematic kind of thinking. And
I
you know
agree.
what, even if it's not, I'm starting to feel like this whole idea of saying that you're from the left, you're from the right, you're a Trump, you're a Biden, you're whatever. I think that the more we are progressing in the 21st century, the more the idea of left and right is kind of being blurred and
Yeah.
not being totally right for this kind of century, I think.
No, you're absolutely right. And that is one of the things as like people who advocate for human rights, who advocate for women's rights, just like better human conditions everywhere. One of the first things we're trying to get rid of is are these like arbitrary dividing lines between people, right? Like one race having more rights than another, or one gender having more rights than another. We're trying to get rid of these dividing lines. But then in doing that, if we put more dividing lines in place, like your left is not my left, you're not left enough for me, like you're like cosplaying as a leftist, all of that, like that kind of language. And I'm guilty of this too. I've like definitely used this in the past, but like, is this a productive way of thinking? Aren't we just isolating ourselves further from our own kind, from
Yeah.
people on our side, from other people who are for human rights? We're just isolating ourselves further from other people by drawing these dividing lines, and like this like purity obsession that some people on the left have, including some of my closest friends, of you're not being left enough. This way of binary thinking, I think that is why like the left can't get taken seriously
Exactly.
in a lot of
Exactly.
places. Yeah.
I'm
And I
I
say this as a proud leftist. Like that kind of thinking is killing us.
No, of course. You need to be criticizing your
Yeah.
own, you
Exactly.
need to
Oh
be
my God.
able.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm cutting you off again, but that is something I advocate for constantly and I get bashed for constantly. And I'm like, no, but that is what separates us from like right-wing trolls, in that we have to be able to see our own flaws. We have to be able to see the gaps and the holes in our movement. And we have to be able to call ourselves out on it and take accountability for
Yeah,
those actions.
exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, you can say whatever you want about protests and about free
Mhm.
speech. I hate those people that saying, I'm all for free speech. Of course you're all for free speech.
Yeah.
Everybody wants free speech.
Yeah.
This is like a logical fallacy. Of course, everybody wants free
Yeah.
speech.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing about, in protests, in the encampments
Mhm.
in America or even Canada or whatever,
Mhm.
I don't feel like it's free speech, at least from my perspective, not being there, But
Mhm.
people are coming to them, asking them questions, and they're like, no, speak to our media spokesperson. I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, but you would never see, especially in Israel, but you would never see
Yeah.
somebody who stands in a protest, screaming his hearts out, being in an, we had encampments in Israel too. In
Mhm.
2011, we had the tent protest that people were living in tents because they were trying to say we have no money to live in
Mhm.
houses. So they did that, and you would ask people from the street in the media, and they would tell you why they're
Yeah.
living in a tent in the middle
Yeah.
of Tel Aviv. But those entitled little brats are closed off from everywhere. They're saying that they are doing this for peace, where they're not letting specific people inside or, to cross to get to the library. And when people are asking them, why are they doing that? Talk to them. I don't want to talk to the media. So
Yeah.
whatever you are saying, it doesn't even matter, because whatever you're standing for, if that is what the way you're acting, you're just disqualifying yourself from the conversation. You are just disqualifying yourself as an activist saying, I'm doing this for the greater good. How is it for the greater good if you're not engaging in a conversation? How is it that you're trying to isolate yourself in a
Mhm.
small little bubble and say, this is the only truth that is, this is my truth is the only truth.
Yeah. 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 I was gonna say it is past
Yeah,
7.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
late for my other meeting. No, 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 it's not your fault. I was enjoying this conversation. I saw the clock a
Me
long time
too.
ago. I
I
was
I just
ignoring it.
I just felt my ass really hurting, and then I was like, oh yeah, it's 2 hours. Oh my God, I didn't
2
notice.
hours. Yeah. Oh, this was really fun though, Roy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There is a reason why I really didn't feel like 2 hours were passing by, even
Yeah.
if it's like, for me it's 2 in the morning right now, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I could continue for
Oh yeah.
hours.
I'm so sorry. It's so
No,
late out there for you.
it's
Oh
it's
no.
so good. I feel like I could stay like this for hours and speak with you.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
really, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. This was like therapy.
Oh my God, I need to tell this to my father that always wanted to me for being a therapist.